don't even know what I was doing, honestly. I was just surviving. But a lot of the anger is projected more towards my father, to be honest. It's like, how could you leave your kids? How could you choose drugs? When I was a kid, well, I mean, number one, I wanted to be a ninja. There was a lot of Bruce Lee stuff out there and stuff, and I was like, oh my God, that guy's never scared. You know, like that guy doesn't have to worry. And that's when everything changed. And I go over to the incubator and he's freaking out and he's just like looking up, just screaming. And I walk over and I'm like, hey, it's me. It's your dad. And he just stopped and locked in, dude. And like, makes me want to cry. I didn't want my son to have to deal with a lot of the financial struggles that I experienced as a kid. I was ready to get after it, man. And then you're consciously choosing to break the cycle on top of it. And that's a conscious decision. Like, you make that choice, you know, and you make it every day. But when I put that, or when Chris put that black belt on me, I was like, this was part of my childhood dream, was to become a ninja, you know. I was going to get to heavyweight, and my son coached me, you know, yelling all this stuff at me that I usually yell at him when he's wrestling. So there's something to be said for guys and girls who have been and experienced like the lowest of lows, you know, and come out of that, you know, like the rebirth. And that's like a
Just a quick message before we get into it. Many of you who watch or listen to the Making Mentors podcast aren't yet subscribed, and I would be super grateful if you would go ahead and hit that follow or subscribe button. Thank you so much for your love and support, and hope you guys enjoy this next episode.
Okay, Jeremy Dawson, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So Jeremy, how are you doing today?
Awesome.
What did you actually do today?
Today, so Friday's kind of like my light day. I'm a gym owner, Paragon Jiu-Jitsu. So actually today I had to go to the dentist first thing in the morning because a friend of mine, Jason, kneed me in the mouth earlier in the week or last week, broke 4 of my bottom teeth.
Awesome.
So I was at the dentist getting those fixed. Came out pretty good though.
Yeah.
They were trying to color match my teeth, and I was like, why don't we just throw a little gold in there?
Nice.
But yeah, it came out good. So yeah, my bottom lip is still a little numb, but after that, head over to jiu-jitsu. Today we kind of do like an open mat. So did that, rolled with the guys, had a good time, ran home, watched some California State Championships going on right now for wrestling.
Nice.
So watched a little bit of that and then headed over here.
Cool.
Pretty chill day.
Yeah. Awesome. So out of the total of 6 podcasts, 2 guests have mentioned your name or recommended you.
Oh, wow.
Why do you think that is?
No, probably because they want to see this and make fun of me afterwards.
Is that why?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know, man.
No, to be honest with you, it's being a black belt and an instructor at the gym, owner. I think you're kind of thrust into a leadership role, whether you want to or not. But I think everyone that either seeks a leadership role or gets put into one eventually, has self-reflection in that and kind of gets asked questions like this, you know. And I think for me, honestly, I've been able to kind of impact some people just in that I'm a pretty optimistic person, you know. I think life is a gift. And I try to bring that joyfulness into whatever I'm doing, and I'm very passionate about jiu-jitsu and my family and my spiritual beliefs, and so I think that sometimes that leaks into other things, you know, and people want to be around positivity, and so as a kind of, I don't know, result of that, having fun, having a good time, following your passion, like, you know, people tend to kind of gravitate towards that. I know I do when people are like that. So
Yeah.
and I like to have fun. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I have had a pretty diverse like upbringing and background, and it's easy for me to relate to people who have come from tougher situations. So I think a lot of people in martial arts sometimes have a backstory like that. Not everyone, but finding like-minded people that you can relate to, I always kind of have fun with that too. And
Yeah.
one of our students recently was just telling me how he had gone home. I won't share too much because I didn't ask him if I could talk about this, but he was dealing with some family issues, and I had some of the same exact issues. So I think he was a little surprised, because I don't talk about that too much. But both of our dads were drug addicts, and so it was cool to kind of relate to him and talk about that stuff. So
Yeah,
maybe that's why. I don't know.
maybe.
I don't know.
It's definitely, I mean, for me, it's definitely probably a couple of those things. Like, I gravitate towards people that are super, like, high energy, cheerful people,
Yeah.
and also people that you just have a good time around.
Yeah.
You're just like,
Yeah.
you want to learn from, especially in jiu-jitsu. I think you're one of, I don't know if I want to say the few coaches, but one of a few coaches that I feel like you always come up to me and you're like, let's go today. Like, let's roll, let's do it.
Yeah.
And some coaches, like, they'll be like, all right, open mat, and then they immediately run out the door.
No way, dude. Well, you're a stud, man. So I think that's too, like, sometimes that happens with, like, kid parent relationships. Like, you see your parent as this, like, this omnipresent person, but they're just like real people too. Like, same thing with jujitsu instructors. Like, I'm trying to get better.
Yeah.
If I don't seek hard rolls, like, you're a hard roll, dude. You're really good at jujitsu.
Thank you.
If I don't seek those rolls out and I just go for the comfort rolls every time, I'm not going to get better either. And I try to keep that. In jujitsu, we talk about that white belt mentality. And what that means is, when you're a white belt, your cup is completely empty, right? So you're willing to take in any technique or any advice from anyone. As you get better in jiu-jitsu, especially I see this a lot in the level I'm at with black belts, is like you start to kind of specialize, but then you start to lose that mentality. You start to kind of like, seek the comfort roles, not take advice from people. And I try to really keep myself rolling like with you young studs who are really good, not higher belt than me, and for a lot of black belts, I think that's intimidating. But I learn stuff from you guys all the time. I mean, there's so much knowledge out there on the internet, that kind of thing. You guys are always doing new stuff that I've never seen before. And if I didn't have that mentality of like seeking those hard rolls, keeping my cup empty, asking you guys for help, getting tapped out by young studs, like, I need that. So that I really enjoy rolling with you because you keep me humble, but you're also always willing to like work with me. And if I ever get a move on you, I feel pretty cool.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. Let's do a little bit of the history of Jeremy and kind of dig into. You said you've been in Osos for 20 years, but did you grow up here on the Central Coast? Or?
No, so I was born in a town in Washington called Yakima. It's and when you tell people you're from Washington, right away they're like, "Oh, sick! I love the rain. I love trees." No, this is not the part of Washington I'm from.
Yeah.
So I'm from Eastern Washington. It's the closest thing I can equate it to for California is it's like Bakersfield. It's like high desert tundra. It's hot as hell in the summer, and it's cold as frick in the winter. So you do get some of those four seasons, but it's mainly hot or cold.
Yeah.
And Yakima is a pretty. There are nice parts about it, but especially when I grew up, we lived in a specific area called Nob Hill in Yakima, and it's a very impoverished area. My mom was very young when she had me, and so we lived with my grandparents. My dad, who I don't know very well, but have met and spent some time with through the years. I just choose not to spend time with him as an adult. Was an alcoholic and a drug addict. He cheated on my mom constantly. There was some physical abuse, from what I could tell at that young age. And then I had two half brothers from him, who his wife at that time had committed an overdose, and she died from drug use. So we lived with my grandparents. It was the two boys, Ricky and Steven, me, and then eventually my sister. But we lived in the basement of my grandparents' house. My mom wasn't around a lot at that time. She was, I assume, working. But I'm not really sure because I was so young. But I have these incredible memories of my grandmother at that time. My grandmother was blind. diabetic. She couldn't really function on her own, but she was the lunch lady, like head of lunch lady for the school system there. So I was like her seeing eye dog when I was little. So we used to like load up, ride the city bus down to the schools there. She would hold on to my shoulder and I would like walk her around, introduce her, like she would introduce me to her lunch ladies once we get in there, and I'd be eating little chimichangas with ketchup in the corner. And so pretty cool. Those are the good memories I take from that time, but it was a tough time. One of my first childhood memories is the day that Ricky and Steven got taken from us. My dad's aunt or sister took custody of them, and we didn't know anything about it. Like, child services showed up, they ripped them away from us, and that was the last time I saw them until I was in high school. So, my dad's best friend is who my stepdad is. His name's Doug Dawson. Incredible guy. We did not get along when I was a child, but now as adults, like I love the guy to death, and I was always very grateful. He was very good to my sister and my mom. Me and him we just didn't get along as that age. I think I had a lot of anger at that time too, so I was probably pretty hard reflecting back on it, my part in it for sure. But he also was raised pretty rough, and I don't think he knew how to be a dad to a boy. He was great with the girls, so we just were constantly butting heads. But so when I turned 4, my stepsister Nikki, so Doug's child, came into the picture as well. So she's my sister, and his job moved him to the Tri-Cities. So that's about an hour and 15 minutes from Yakima. I say an hour and 15 because it's exactly an hour and 15, because we made that drive like every weekend. But when we first moved from there to the Tri-Cities, we lived in a trailer. We were kind of trying to find a place to set roots. Good memories from that time. And then we were kind of skipping around schools a little bit, and my sister was getting picked on. We're only about a year apart. And so I remember my sister came to me when we were really young, and I just was like, this isn't happening. But I was only seeing the kids who were picking on her at recess and stuff. So I was like, well, what if I flunk and I'm in your grade, and then we can handle this. So I did that. Like, I remember doing the scantrons, and I'd like write like a smiley face in the scantron. The teacher's like, Jeremy, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
you can't have 3 in the same row. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm just stupid, Like, so we're at a school called Tapt Hill. It's in West Richland. I think it was Tapt Hill. And I flunked, and then I came into my sister's grades and was like, what's up now, motherfuckers? Sorry, I don't know if
That's
you could
okay.
cuss. Okay. But that's kind of the relationship that me and my sister have because of our childhood. I kind of became a little bit more of a father figure to her than a brother, I think, over time. But yeah, it was tough. I think it was a different time too. The 90s were a little different. There was a lot more, I think, like hitting your kids and stuff like that was a lot more acceptable. Um, and the environment was just kind of rough. So eventually we moved to where my parents live now, which is a area in Richland, Washington. Um, very at that time. So basically, what happened at the Tri Cities was the town was built to house the people for Hanford, where they do the nuclear stuff. Huge facility. I think some of the A bomb was built there, but they had built a lot of nice areas in the town to house the engineers and stuff. But they also built a lot of very low income areas to house the service staff. So as Hanford kind of, not as needed as it was in the past, then families started to fill in those gaps. So the poor people moved into the impoverished small house area, and the affluent people moved into the nice houses.
Yeah.
And so I was from the poor area, and it was a rough area. Like, it was rough when we were kids, but it's kind of like that movie The Sandlot, like, in that it was like cool, like we had that experience, like but it was almost if like you took those kids away and you put in like a lot of poor kids, like there was a lot of fighting. There was a lot of, I won't say like there weren't a lot of established gangs, but I was approached when I was in like fourth grade to join a gang. And so we grew up pretty tough in that environment. My parents always had food on the table, so I'm very grateful there. I'll say like that would be considered like upper low class, I guess. But anything beyond that, I had to provide for myself, and I did. So I've had a job since I could walk. I had paper routes and mowing lawns, and then I had my parents sign a work visa when I was, I think, 14 to be able to work at Taco Bell. I worked full time at Taco Bell and went to school full time and played sports full time. So it just was the environment we were in at that time. So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's a brief beginning history.
No, it's good. What did you want to do after that when you were a kid? Did you want to be something when you grew up? Did you have like, or were you just trying to think about like, I just want to make it to help my family out or do these things,
Yeah. Yeah. So that's an interesting question. Because yes and yes. So yes, when I was a kid, well, I mean, number one, I wanted to be a ninja.
A ninja.
That's when I was young. All I wanted to do was be a ninja. There was a lot of Bruce Lee stuff out there and stuff, and I was like, oh my God, like that guy's, I mean, if I look at the core root, it's like that guy's never scared, like that guy doesn't have to worry. Like you turn your body into a weapon, and I think I seeked that out, um, adolescent age. Like I fought a lot. And I got into wrestling too because I was like, they let us fight at school. Like this is a sport, you know what I mean? Like it's controlled environment, but I think a lot of it goes back to that. Like I just didn't want to be afraid anymore. And that's kind of like the childlike version of it. The adult version is just like it's cool, like fucking rad. And then we got really into like playing army guy and stuff. I always wanted to be kind of like a soldier. Probably the same reasons. But a lot of my life at that time, and then as I became a young adult, was more about survival, honestly. And I don't think I thought ahead that much. I was a very good athlete. I really kind of gravitated towards athletic endeavors because I got a lot of validation through athletics when I was young. And that was something I didn't get much of at home. So I just kind of poured myself into that. One thing that can happen to a child when you've been exposed to a parent who has dependency issues is one, they lean into that and they follow that same cycle, or two, you go completely the opposite direction. And for me, I was going the opposite direction. I wasn't going to be a piece of shit like my dad. And so I never did drugs. I probably drank once in high school. But I just threw myself into athletics, and I had some opportunity for that to go to college, possibly. But my grades were so bad because I didn't give a shit. Like I was just trying to make ends meet. I was trying to, kind of, I don't even know what I was doing. Honestly, I was just surviving. And as long as my sister was doing okay, I felt good, and she was doing okay. We were taking care of each other and, but I mean, I really loved women too. Like I like girls. I was into girls at a very young age. So a lot of my motivation at that time too, I think too, I was getting a lot of, just like with the sports, I was getting a lot of adulation through, being with girls and at that time too, in the culture, like rap had just become big. It was like a big deal amongst our friend group. Like if you could, like make out with a girl and then like, get a phone number from her sister, like horrible stuff, and like, so and that was a lot of what I was consumed with at that time.
Yeah.
But if we look at like psychoanalyze that, I think I was trying to find love, in both athletics and my physical endeavors. And so I didn't really think too far ahead. And that's what kind of led me into the military, to be honest with you. After we had graduated high school, I think I moved out like a couple days after. And I was living on friends' couches, slept in my car a decent amount. And then eventually I had a friend who got an apartment. I don't remember paying rent there ever, but I lived there, and just kind of pissing my life away. I was going to community college, but my dad was a veteran, and so I was receiving money through the VA to go to college, but I wasn't actually going to college. I was just hanging out, and chilling.
Yeah.
And I remember it reached a point where I had totally like exhausted every angle that I could to like make money, and I just was floundering, and I ended up having to move back into my parents' house, and I was like, I'm not gonna sit here and pay my parents rent. Like I'm out. What's the best way to get out of this situation? And for me, it was the military. So I ended up going that route eventually. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So then why Coast Guard?
Yeah. So kind of what happened was, is I went in. There was no Coast Guard recruiting base in the Tri-Cities. So I went in, and the Marines were there, and the Marine guy's like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "Whatever. I just want to get out of here." And he's like, "Perfect. You're the perfect candidate, you know?" And he's like, "Well, we're closing for the day. Take this quick test, this ASVAB. I think it was the ASVAB at that time. And so I took the test. He's like, "You did great. You can do whatever you want, basically. But we're closing for the day. Come back." So I went home, and I told my mom, I said, "Hey, I'm joining the Marines. I'm out of here." And my dad was a Marine. The dad I don't really know. And so she kind of lost it, and I will say, like, even though I had a tough childhood, I love my mom, um, and I never doubted that she loved us. They just really, I think, were doing the best they could at that time. Um, and so she called my uncle, and my uncle is a senior chief in the Coast Guard, or is a senior chief. And so Uncle Kevin gave me a shout and said, "Hey, why don't you go to Yakima tomorrow instead of signing the paperwork there?" And I was like, "Cool, man. I do not care. Like, I'm down for whatever." So I walk into the Coast Guard recruiter in Yakima, and the first thing the guy said to me, he goes, "Hey, you can join the Marines, you'll do great, whatever." And he's like, "But you got to ask yourself this question. Do you want to spend your time in the military taking other people's lives, or do you want to spend your time in the military saving people's lives?" And man, it was like a freaking lance to the heart, dude. And I was like, yeah, like, why am I investing all this into killing people when I can be investing everything into saving people? And so he got me. So I signed up, and he goes, "When do you want to leave?" And I was like, "Can I leave today?" And he's like, "Well, how about next Tuesday?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, let's go." So a week later, I was at boot camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Cape May, New Jersey.
Cool.
Yeah.
Had you been outside of Washington before? Or?
I had been to the Oregon coast, and then I had done, so backtrack a little bit. When we were really young, my parents were really laid back, honestly. They were really chill. When I got to be about 8 years old, we joined a religious church. It was a Baptist church. And my parents got really involved in the church. And this church went from when we started there, it was like 30 people. By the time I left, it was a mega church. And this is in a very short period of time if you look at the whole picture. And I think my parents kind of at that time in their life were not able to have a personal relationship with God. They were kind of having a relationship based on the standards that were being imposed upon them by that church at that time. And there ended up being some very toxic people in that church that, at the time we were unaware of. And it there was a point when it almost felt like a cult. Um, and my parents really got caught up in that. Um, and so, and we did too, in all fairness. Like, it really did a number on my sister,
Yeah.
big time. And so, wait, why were you asking me this?
I was asking if you had made it out of the state before, but
Oh, so
I'm
the
assuming-
reason I came out of the state was when we were young, our youth group went all over the world. They were big on
wow.
so we went to like Oregon, evangelical stuff. I went to Guatemala City. That was pretty cool. Tijuana. So I had been, but into very like rural, impoverished areas, and done some cool stuff. Like, we helped rebuild this village that had been washed out in a mudslide in Guatemala. We helped rebuild a church in Coos Bay, Oregon. But those were like the only times I had ever been out of really the Tri-Cities, other than like, I was really good at soccer, so I was on a travel team, but that was all pretty, Canada, Idaho, like kind of in that Pacific Northwest realm.
Yeah.
So no, I had never been to the East Coast. Um, and that was a big trip, dude. It was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like this mega church kind of influenced your life in an interesting way, or was it just something you were pulled into that you had to be a part of as a kid? Like,
Yeah. So for me, I mean, it had a big influence on my life. Um, for me, I think I saw kind of through the bullshit. There was a lot, before anyone else. And so I really enjoyed it as the church grew. There was a huge youth presence, right? And so I really enjoyed it for the like access to people. Like, it was cool. We would do fun activities. We would go and do these big summer camps and stuff like that. And I was able to differentiate between what was going on, and the fun that I was having. So I never really bought into all that. It really did. I was very thankful, especially older, for the foundational kind of stuff. Um, like, we memorized a lot of scripture, and were exposed to a lot of the belief system of Christianity at a young age, and I'm grateful for that because that was a good foundation. And for me, being able to differentiate between the BS and what it's actually saying in the Bible, and kind of creating a personal relationship with God, and following his teachings rather than the teachings of, some guru or some youth pastor or that kind of thing. But it did sour the process for me. Like, I completely pulled away from that. Like we were talking about earlier, like when I was trying to make ends meet, like we were doing bad stuff. Like, we were stealing car stereos, and we were getting paid to install them, and then we were stealing from grocery stores to get food. Uh, w- you know, broke into some houses, like stuff like that. And that's obviously against, the religion that I was practicing at that time. But like I said, I'm happy I was exposed to that. I think a lot of people who are in that environment just completely write off religion after that. Um, and we can talk about where I am now with religion as we kind of develop the story.
yeah.
But I am grateful for that foundational kind of teaching. Um,
Yeah.
and I am a Christian to this day, but I did walk away from it for many years. I'd say like a decade. Um,
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, in the last episode with Brad too, we were talking about some similar things, right? Where you're kind of in this group, maybe you gravitate towards other kids that are struggling in certain ways, and you get into some mischief and stuff, and you do some things that you look back and you're like, what was I doing?
what were you doing? Yeah.
But where I struggle with that is like the if you would have gotten caught for doing those things and had like serious consequences, would that have helped your life, or would it have severely impacted your life for the worse? With a
Yeah.
lot of, because like I kind of have a lot of the same
Yeah.
things, right? When I was a kid, and I think about it, and I'm like, man, that something like that. I mean, if you just think about in terms of going on your permanent record and getting a job and things like that,
Yeah.
disqualifying you for the military, I think those things could be, uh, given the amount of stories that I hear from people who get into stuff like this,
Yeah.
it could have severely affected their ability to pull themselves out,
Yeah, absolutely.
So I do wonder, a lot of people seem to trust in the justice system to basically pull kids out of those situations and teach them a lesson. But I do wonder if all of us kind of go through our own version of that and are very lucky to have been able to transcend and
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
moving.
Without those permanent, yeah. And it's really unfortunate, there were kids that I grew up with that were pulled into that system.
Yeah.
And that system is not a rehab system. It's
Yeah.
not it can be used as a reset, I think, but it's mainly the person has to choose to reset themselves. Those institutions and stuff, at least from my experience, don't seem to create better habits on the outside. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's like getting a spanking.
For
Like,
sure.
yeah, that sucks. I don't want to get a spanking again, but that thing I was doing was really like maybe worth it, like when you're trying to figure out how you're going to eat, um, and, maybe it's worth it,
Unfortunately,
Yeah,
sure.
and you don't have any money and you don't know how to put gas in your car, but you need gas to get to work,
Yeah.
and then you're working very low end jobs because you're young, so yeah, it's tough. I do think there has to be consequences for actions, definitely. But I do think that the consequence has to fit the action, and I wish there was some more um, rehab involved. And I think there's people out there that care about that as well, and I hope they make a good change in that. I've
Yeah.
mentored a couple kids who have gone, or at least one kid who went to the Grizzly Academy, and we were having some of these conversations too, where it's like, it's up to you to really pull yourself out. Um, like me and my sister are the first in our family, on our side of the family, that's ever gone to college.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like at a certain point in life, you have to make that choice. I did it very young with the alcohol and the drugs and stuff. But you have to keep making those choices as you get older and hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
But for me, I mean, the military really was what taught me a lot of these. I mean, I didn't have a lot of discipline, even in sports when I was young. Like, I was never the disciplined kid. I was the kid who was good, like, automatically. But I was a piece of shit. Like, I was a scumbag. And it was like, I would show up, I'd be eating freaking McDonald's, right before the state track tournament. And, the kids who really had the discipline and drive, but I didn't care about, being the best at that time. I didn't care about, I got a lot of adulation through it, and I think I was trying to fill a hole in my heart,
Yeah.
and at that time it was the fix, long term, as your life evolves, you realize that you can't really fill those holes on your own, so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, so yeah, what else?
So then you went to the military.
Yes,
You went into the Coast Guard.
yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So when you say like Coast Guard to a lot of people who don't know, even a lot of military people, the Coast Guard is kind of like the redheaded stepchild. Coast Guard boot camp is legit. It's like people say it's the number two hardest behind the Marines. I don't know because I haven't been to the other, but it's hard. I did well there. I didn't have a hard time with it. I mean, you're getting fed all day, and they use physical activity to beat you down. I like two things that I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I get fed all day, and I get to exercise all day. So it was cool. I think the lack of sleep was the hardest thing, getting woken up at 4 in the morning. I'm a heavy sleeper, and just, some nights sleeping barely at all. That over a sustained period is mentally taxing. That's tough. But overall, I had a great time at boot camp. That being said, I don't think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Like I remember this one guy was just crying himself to sleep every night, and I'm like, dude, do you think you were signing up for fucking summer camp? Like it's supposed to be hard. Like suck it up, dude. But you get through. I think my class started with 147 people. We graduated like 70. So a lot of those either get reverted or kicked out. So the attrition rates, I mean, that's pretty low, I would think. So it's tough, but uh, it was cool. It was a reset for me. Um, I think you hit a lot of lows at boot camp, mentally and physically, and then you start, what everyone does when they hit lows in their life is they start to kind of think about their life choices in those moments, like what got me here. Um, and for me, that was a cool reset, like a very needed reset. The other thing is they're programming you in there. Like, don't get it twisted. They're breaking you down to build you up, And I knew what was happening. Like I was okay with that. Like, build me back up. Like, what are the principles that are gonna make me a successful human? Because I don't think I got a lot of that when I was younger. Like, I didn't get a lot of that either programming or kind of directional stuff. Um, and so in the military, it was all things that I was like, yeah, discipline, honor, respect, patriotism, have your brother's back, um, take care of each other, if someone gets in your way, fuck them up, like these were things that that just kind of hit the reset button for me. And it's like looking back on it, they're principles that yeah, they seem like a no brainer, but I don't think I ever really had that. Like the other thing is too, there's a point after you sign the papers in the military, as soon as you get to boot camp, the first thing they tell everyone is you belong to us now. Like you sign that paper, your life will never be the same. You go where we tell you to. They strip you of control. And that's a very hard thing. That was the hardest thing for me, I think. Um, and, but there was comfort in that too, in that, like, once you let go of control, um, and you plug yourself in and you don't have anyone to blame but yourself. I signed the paper. I belong to them now, I believe in the mission, especially once I started, uh, operating in the Coast Guard, um, I believe in the mission, and now it's on me to hold up my end of the bargain. I have people now who are relying on me, um, to keep them safe, and people who need our help. And so it made me want to be a better person, and that's what I did. I leaned in, and so that was really cool for me. But I don't think I was so selfish before that. Um, so yeah, it was cool, man. It was a really cool experience.
What did you do?
So I was a bosun's mate.
Okay.
So basically a bosun's mate, we're the boat drivers in the Coast Guard. So at that time, the Coast Guard, I think the rating system's a little different now. There's a lot more specialty ratings, but bosun mates are law enforcement. So the inception of the Coast Guard, it was Alexander Hamilton, I believe, who created the Coast Guard, and the job of the Coast Guard was to hunt pirates at that time. So anti-piracy, and then eventually the Coast Guard shifted into search and rescue, and they may have at that time as well. I don't know, but the role of the bosun mate is both anti-piracy and law enforcement, federal law enforcement, but also search and rescue. So the bulk of the time that I was in the Coast Guard, I was a boat driver. And I mean, you can equate a Coast Guard boat driver to like an F-16 pilot in the Air Force. Like, we're the best in the world. We're the best boat drivers you'll ever come across. So that was really cool to be a part of that brotherhood, and we saved a lot of lives.
Yeah.
It was very cool. So
I've seen videos of guys, I don't know if they're Coast Guard, but they have to like make it through the wake. Some really crazy waves. Is that kind
Mhm.
of a part of it where you have to like go out on big days and
Yeah,
take
yeah.
one of those boats and try to like flip it up over the wave and
Yeah, so that's the 47 motor lifeboat that you're seeing. It's the steel. It looks steel. It's actually aluminum, but it's a silver boat. And there's different categories for boat drivers. So there's like the basic coxswain, and don't quote me on this, but I think you're allowed to be in under 20-foot surf, which is pretty big. And then there's a wind rating and overall like ocean rating. And that's what you come in at when you get qualified. The qualification process is very taxing and difficult, but once you get qualified for that, then you move into heavy weather coxswain, and then that's like, I think that's like 30 foot, I can't remember. And then surfman is the penultimate. So that's like the really seasoned guys who have gone through all the different qualifications, and they can go in, you know, the big stuff. But I remember one of my first search and rescue missions in Bodega Bay. It was like that movie, The Perfect Storm. Like, I'm not exaggerating. It was intense. I grew up in the desert. Like, I'd seen the ocean like once in my life, and I just happened to be on. And luckily at that time, we had a senior chief who was a surfman, who was just a stud. And it was the four of us. I think we were underway. Those boats, most missions are a couple hours. We were underway for 18 hours. We saved a family who was 50 miles offshore, which is the farthest we're allowed to go out. And we saved them. We lost the boat at the very end there, but it took us 18 hours on the whole thing. And after that, I was like, yeah, like I want to be a boat driver. I was just a crew member at that time, so it was pretty intense experience.
you lost the boat. How did you get back?
We lost their boat.
Oh, okay. Their boat.
Yeah, we were doing everything to save their boat.
Yeah.
And we lost it. We couldn't save it. And we were working on it for hours.
Oh,
I
man.
mean, being in the perfect storm type situation for 18 hours trying to save a boat. We saved the family. They were on board with us.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a lot of techniques that we use. We had what's called a drogue on the back because the rudder was broken. They were taking on water. So one of our crew members is on their boat pumping out. I was that crew member at certain times during the evolution. Then we have a drogue out, which is a parachute underwater to pull tension on the line so that the boat goes as straight as possible. So you can only go like 5, I think we were going like 5 knots. That's why it was taking us so long. Trying to save this boat the whole time, you know, getting water out, trying to DC kit. We're trying to patch all the holes, you know, all this stuff. And so you're doing like construction work while you're getting freaking thrown against the wall, you know, like, and you're puking because it's so gnarly and like the motion sickness. I get bad motion sickness. So
Had you swam a lot before that? Or?
no. I'm a good athlete and I know how to swim.
Yeah.
I think I was one of the top swimmers in my class at boot camp. But like you're getting kids from like the inner city and stuff who have never swam, you know. So it's not like if you put me up against like a legit swimmer, it's not going to be good. But I'm fine. I'll get there. I'll get there eventually. So
yeah, I'm familiar with in the Air Force like pararescue training, and the pararescue guys do a lot of water con stuff that's really similar to the rescue swimmers and
and the Coast Guard. Yeah, those guys are studs.
Yeah. So I can tell like those guys, man, they have to hold their breath for a long time.
Yeah.
Just to make it through some of the stuff in their boot camp after boot camp that they go through.
Yeah, that was my goal, honestly, was to be a rescue swimmer. But the Coast Guard had other dreams for me, and it worked out. Yeah, when I was at boot camp, I shot in like the top 2%. I got a medal from the admiral for shooting so high. I mean, I'd probably shot guns like twice in my life before that. But when you're at boot camp, you don't have anything better to do but listen, you know, and I'm good at following directions, and I just did exactly what they said. And, you know, I think I missed one shot, and it was right on the edge, you know, so, I got pulled into the more anti-piracy side of things after that. So, but the search and rescue is what I did the most of. And then that's how I ended up here in Morro Bay. This was my last duty station. We call this station vacation. It's like the best
Yeah.
you can get, and I really enjoyed my time here. We get some pretty good weather here. This is the most southern surf station. So what a surf station is it's designated that because of the exposure to surf, right? So large waves, and you have to have a surfman as the OIC, so as the person in charge at the station, and then he has other surfmen under him. Now, some of the other stations, as you go to like Channel Islands, they don't have the surf requirement that we have, so they don't have any surfmen there. They might now, I don't know, but at that time, we were the most southern surfman station in the Coast Guard on the West Coast. So,
Cool.
so it was really cool. You still get to do cool stuff, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, I've seen the anti-piracy like search and rescue helicopters. They have like a sniper or somebody that will take out the engine
Yeah,
from the air. So
yeah, you get to shoot out engine blocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, at our time we had shotgun slugs, but I got to shoot a 50 cal one time. That was pretty cool. Um, but like you don't think about that stuff when you think about the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
And now the Coast Guard has specialty ratings, I believe. I don't. It's been over 20 years for me. So, but they have specialty ratings that's what they do. Is they do. Back in my day, it was called like TACLET, was the specialty group. And then I think now they have ratings like MST or I don't know, Marine Safety, I don't know, whatever they call it. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, most of my time was search and rescue. Um, but the Coast Guard has so many cool. We do so much cool stuff. Like I heard Jocko on a podcast say, if you join the military and you want a lot of action, join the Coast Guard. And I thought that was so cool because it was like that. Like we were always doing cool stuff. There's downtime, just like in the hurry up and wait in the military thing.
Yeah.
But it kind of hurts my heart when guys like you'll hear it a lot from the Navy or guys, and they'll be like probably like the cooks in the Navy will say like, "Oh, the Coast Guard,"
Yeah.
But no, it's probably everyone in the Navy, but you don't hear that a lot from Marines. Like ask a Marine about the Coast Guard if they know their history.
Yeah.
So during Vietnam, Coast Guard bosun's mates were the ones who were driving in and picking up, like recon Marines and stuff like that who were trapped behind enemy lines. I think the only guy in the Coast Guard to get Medal of Honor is this guy Douglas Monroe, and that's what he did. He lost his life going in to pull a bunch of Marines out of a river
Wow.
and returning fire and blocking fire and so he's kind of like the famous Medal of Honor guy that you learn about at boot camp. So
Yeah.
pretty cool,
Yeah, you wouldn't assume that they would pull the Coast Guard to go internationally. It's like in my mind, the Coast Guard is our coast and not necessarily someone else's coast.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I could see.
Well, and that's how it is for most of us.
Yeah.
But there's Coast Guard guys everywhere. Guantanamo Bay, there's Coast Guard guys. I actually almost had to go there at the end of my deployment. Coast Guard is all over. There's Coast Guard guys on Navy boats. There's Coast Guard guys overseas. So yeah, the mission's different for sure. But when I was in 9/11 happened. And so at that time, we were under Department of Transportation. And then when 9/11 happened, they shifted us to Department of Homeland Security. So a lot of the missions and rating stuff changed dramatically after that.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you all the stuff that's going on now. That was just what was going on during my tenure,
Wow. Yeah.
So
how long were you in the Coast Guard for?
4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did my 4. And then I was like, I think I got what I needed out of it. I was super grateful for that. And but it's time for me to get out there. And I had just met my wife. We weren't married at the time, and I was like, hey, I kind of want to see what it's like to start a family and do my thing. A lot of military guys can attest to this probably, but you move constantly. That speech they give you at boot camp about kind of your government property never goes away. You truly are. And so if they need you or you get promoted, you're going to the next station or whatever billet they need for you. And you just gotta, smile and get to work. but for me, especially having my uncle in the Coast Guard for so many years, I think he was in like probably over 30, like he was in for a long time. And just seeing how often he had to move and the impact that had on his family and stuff, I was like, yeah, I think I'm ready to. Um, um, I got really fortunate too. The GI Bill was doing really good at that time, and so I took that money and I was like, I think I'm gonna check out college. Something I never thought I would do out of high school. I had no desire to stay in school and all that stuff. So yeah, I did that. So I stayed here, went to Cuesta, which was great. Did my 2 years. Me and my wife were so poor at that time. I was working 3 jobs, going to Cuesta. So I was waiting tables on the weekends. I worked at a bank, a local bank, and then I had started my own window washing company. And so I was doing those 3 things and going to school full time. The cool thing about college, as you know, is like you can pick your classes, as long as they fit within what you need. And so I was able to kind of juggle all those things and try to make ends meet, but we were struggling. And then right before I was about to graduate from Cuesta, my wife got pregnant with our son Shay, and that's when everything changed. Like everything changed for me. And so I applied to Cal Poly. I got denied. Um, and I had horrible grades in high school, like horrible. I think I graduated with like as low as you can, like a 1.8 or something. I did great at Cuesta. I got almost straight A's at Cuesta because I was applying myself. And so they denied me. I went into the admin office and I said, "Hey, is there anything I can do? Like, I'm done with Cuesta, but I can't move." And so I filled out paperwork for a hardship, they call it, and then I got approved. So I got into Cal Poly.
Cool.
And then I was at Cal Poly for a year and a half. So I took like 20 some units while I was at Poly because we were having a kid, and I graduated when my son was born, and time to get to work, make some real money. For me, it was like I didn't want my son to have to deal with a lot of the financial struggles that I experienced as a kid. And so I was ready to get after it, man. And as soon as my wife told me she was pregnant, it was like I had that switch flip when I joined the military. And then once that happened, it was like that switch times 100.
Yeah.
It's time to go, bud. It's not about you anymore. And so that's what I did. I started putting my head down and getting after it. So
That's an interesting. I think that some people, when they have kids, they're like waiting for that to kick in. Some people are like, I need this motivation, so maybe having a kid will do it. And I think it's like you either have that or you don't.
Right? Yeah.
If it doesn't, then what are you gonna do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
So,
yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, it's interesting. For me, it was like, sorry, I'm re-upping my Nicorette, dude.
it's all right.
For me, with my son, it was like, I don't know. It was the same thing as like what I equate to like I had decided really young that I wasn't going to do drugs and be an alcoholic. I think I also was aware enough when I was young, especially, with taking care of my sister a lot and having her rely on me that that when it came time that I had my own family, that I was going to create the most stable environment I could for him. And I'm a you know I'm a huge believer in well, I will just say this, like as I was growing up, there were a lot of situations, especially through sports, where I was exposed to other people's environments. And some of the kids that I became friends with when I got older, a lot of my friends when I was young were all poor, right? But as you get good at sports in high school and you're on travel teams and stuff, and you get exposed to kids who have everything, and you're just like, wow, like that's a possibility, you know? It can also be discouraging when you're that age too, you know? But I think for me, it was like, I want to create an environment where when I do have kids, they're not going to struggle, but my grandkids aren't going to struggle either. Like, I want to create and break some of these chains in a way that there's some honor to my name, you know, when I'm gone or whatever. Like, I I want to build an environment that's conducive to, you know, generational wealth or um, at least generational pride, you know, in where we come from and what we do. And that was something I didn't feel a lot of when I was younger. And I don't think that's a fault of my parents. It was just the environment, you know, um, and so I never was like resentful or anything being that. I always wanted to be that person that would be the pigtail for that, to break the generational chains, um, to get that to be a possibility, you know.
Yeah.
And if they fuck it up, that's on them, you know. But you know my son.
Yeah.
I think he has all the tools. At least we've tried to provide him all the tools to be able to then pigtail to the next generation.
Yeah.
So, and we'll be there for him, hopefully, you know.
Yeah. And he's going to San Francisco State.
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
And he's on the wrestling team there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what's he majoring in?
Business.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one interesting kind of like situation is too, is like when you get guys like me or like Brad or, you know, whoever you have in here or yourself, you know, for example, like there's a lot of things that happen when you have to grow up young that are beneficial, you know, and there's a lot of things that can happen that are not beneficial, right? But if you turn that in a positive way, which I feel like I have, there's a lot of character building that happened during that time that turned me into the person I am now, which I'm happy about. Um, but then when you have kids and they like never struggle, like Shay's never had to really struggle. He's never had financial hardship. He's never had to work, you know. Um, and like, how do you still instill those qualities without, you know, imposing hardship on them? And I think maybe some parents overcompensate with that, you know, and relationally. And so maybe they create like a stressful environment when it doesn't really exist. For me, it was grappling. Like grappling is hard. Like I started training jujitsu really early, and before that it was Muay Thai, and then he piggytailed that into wrestling, and so having him get exposed to this extremely hard thing in a controlled environment, like I'm forever grateful for that. For that, because it created a lot of struggle. Like freaking wrestling's hard, dude. Um, and and so seeing my son in that environment and having to overcome, and you know, he started wrestling late, even though he did jujitsu well. So first couple of years were super tough, and he grinded it out and worked his butt off. I mean, that kid practiced like all day, every day, lifting, and it turned out to be a passion that we could share with each other. So we became extremely close through that. Um, and so if there's any parents out there like looking for something, it doesn't have to be grappling, but there does have to be some kind of like, I think, curated struggle, especially uh, in households where there's not a lot of, you know, imposed struggle. Because I am grateful for a lot of the characteristics I developed through those times. Or, you know, there's something to be said for guys and girls who have been and experienced like the lowest of lows, you know, and come out of that, you know, like the rebirth. And that's like a resiliency and a confidence that you can't give to someone. You have to earn it.
Yeah.
And so you know, for us, that was wrestling. And now my son's wrestling in college. I'm super proud of him. And now he's out there doing his thing, you know. So, but yeah, it's a cool thing, man. So yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
where we were.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Do you, because like you got your black belt, I think last year,
Yeah,
and then you were able to basically give your son his blue belt
yeah,
as part of that?
yeah. The first promotion I ever did.
That's cool.
So, you know, Chris Lovato, the founder of Paragon here in Slow, he let me do that. I think technically you have to be a one stripe white belt to promote people, so that's probably still under Chris. But he gave me the honor of promoting my son,
Yeah.
and that was like one of my proudest moments, as a dad. There's a there's a couple moments in my life that I'll never trade in. One is the day my son was born. His birth was super intense. It was gnarly. Like, he had the umbilical cord stuck around his shoulder. We didn't know at the time, and so he was getting pushed out. We'd see the top of his head. He'd get sucked back in. And we're very fortunate that he doesn't have any long term um, health stuff because of that. Cerebral palsy and stuff like that happens because of that. Um, but eventually we got him out, and I remember he was freaking out. He's crying. They they take him out, give him to my wife. She's doing her thing, but it was a tough birth on my wife. So they take him and they put him over in the incubator, and then they're working on my wife, and it was pretty scary. And so I'm over there with my wife. Shay's over in the incubator, and they're starting to get it. They're doing everything they can, and there's no room for me anymore, right? So I kind of back away, and I go over to the incubator, and he's freaking out, and he's just like looking up, just screaming, screaming, screaming. And I walk over, and I'm like, "Hey, it's me. It's your dad." And he just stopped and locked in, dude, and like makes me want to cry. But we have this special connection, and it was just incredible. It was one of the best moments of my life. And then the blue belt was a big moment. And then the other one was he was nervous to compete at jiu-jitsu when he was young, and he wanted to do this tournament called the U.S. Open. And so he asked me if I would compete alongside of him. And that year, both me and Shay won the U.S. Open together.
That's cool.
And so we got our gold medals. Like, he's struggling, I'm struggling. It was super hard. It was a gnarly tournament, um, and we pulled through together. And then the last one was recently when I competed at a tournament at Brown Belt. I was going against a heavyweight. It was a pretty gnarly match. I won like 6-4, I think. It was super tight. The guy was super good. Christian, shout out to Christian. Um, and my son coached me, and he was in the coach's seat, and he's screaming at me and telling me to keep my head up, and yelling all this stuff at me that I usually yell at him when he's wrestling. So,
Yeah.
some cool memories, man, through grappling and with the boy. So,
Yeah. Like, do you feel some sense of, what would you call it? I don't know what the word is. Something along the lines of like not breaking the cycle, but kind of like therapeutic to be able to have those moments with your son.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. I think at the beginning, both me and my wife. So my wife had an extremely hard childhood. And she's very open about this, so I can talk about it. But she was physically abused. Her mom didn't take very good care of her. She had to live with her aunt and uncle. She was in foster care at one time. Um, and both of us, I think, when my son was first born, the amount of love that I felt and she felt towards him, it pales any other love that I've ever experienced on this earth. And I didn't even know it was possible. And to experience that when he's first born and want to give him the world, I think for me created a little bit of a period of resentment and anger, to be honest. Um, one thing about my parents is I never doubted that they loved me. I know they love me to death. But it was different, it was it was tough. And there were periods in my life when I felt like they could have done a better job. Um, my mom was very young when she had us, and so in all fairness, that's a tough go, and especially with my dad environment and stuff like that. But a lot of the anger is projected more towards my father, to be honest. It's like, how could you leave your kids? How could you choose drugs over? And my mom did her best, and my stepdad came in and he helped us, exponentially. But towards my dad, it was like, how could you do that? How could you experience this, what I just experienced, and then go and do cocaine or go and do, drink yourself to death? And so there was a lot of anger that was a byproduct of that. So I had a period of that. And I had a period where I didn't talk to my mom for about a decade too. And we worked some stuff out and had some cool conversations. She gave me a lot more insight into what was going on at that time. And I'm super grateful for that. I love her to death. And I do think she did her best. But, that was compounded on my wife as well. Like I remember having these conversations, like, how could you not give this kid the world, So you have that period.
Yeah.
And then you're consciously choosing to break the cycle on top of it. And that's a conscious decision. Like you make that choice, and you make it every day. And so doesn't mean you don't make mistakes, but as long as you keep that in your mind and you're like, no more, this isn't going to be the same. Then I think that's a really cool kind of way to look at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we both made that decision together that we were gonna be the ones, so.
Do you if you could go back and kind of, I guess, mentor your younger self or tell your younger self,
Yeah.
like one thing, what would you say?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I would say is that there was a dark period in my life, and a lot of it had to do with stepping away from my religious beliefs. And I think that I would go back and tell myself, like, hey, God is real. You're not the center of the universe, and kind of reset myself that way and encourage myself too. It's like I ended up becoming really hard on myself when I consciously made the decision to kind of give my son the next level of life, or a jump start on life, as I would kind of describe it. And I would say to myself, like, it doesn't have to be done in a day. I think I worked myself to death at times and I grinded myself down and I was always hard on myself. It's okay to enjoy the process, and you hear that quote a lot where it's like, try to be 1% better each day. I think there were days when I tried to be 100% better. It's like, chill out, bro.
Sure.
Enjoy it. Like, enjoy this. And you hear this a lot from parents, like, it'll be over before you know it. And you're holding your 1-year-old child and you're like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Yeah.
And then you're hugging your kid, dropping them off for college. It really feels like that. Make sure you enjoy those moments. I did a lot, but there were times when my head was down and I was just getting after it, and I think some people out there need to hear that, maybe, like, it's okay to enjoy it along the way a little bit more. Yeah.
What does it feel like now that your kid's going to college and you're empty nester type
Yeah.
of, what's your next goal in life? Does it
Yeah.
feel-
Well, it's interesting. I didn't have the like. So don't get me wrong. The day my son left, I was super strong, or the day we dropped him off. The next day, I was a mess. I broke down on the driveway. My wife had to hold me in her arms, like, um, but I love my wife. I'm very blessed to have such an incredible woman, and we're getting to fall back in love like when we first met each other, and it's incredible. Um, the the other part of it is that I don't think a lot of people kind of articulate or talk about. I've never really heard anyone talk about this, but when you have a kid, it feels like, at least to me, like I I have my heart, right? My soul or whatever. And when Shay came out, it was like me and my wife took a piece of each other's heart and we put it in the world. It's not inside of me anymore, but it's still my heart. And so when your child leaves, it a piece of you is gone. And that's hard, you know? Uh, and so learning to navigate how to be okay with a piece of you not being really close to you that belongs inside of you, it's hard.
Yeah.
But it's also really incredible at the same time. Like you're giving a piece of you to, the world, and watching him become his own person. And like we talk on the phone a lot, and it's like talking to a dude. Like he's like, yeah, he's your kid, but he's becoming a man, and it's like it's so cool, man. But on the empty nester thing, like I think a lot of people see it as a negative, and there are negatives for sure, but it can be a really cool time in your life as well. And I think me and my wife are starting to realize that.
Yeah.
Like this is a really fun time. We're in our 40s and we're living like we just met in our 20s. We don't have as many responsibilities, you know. Financial wise it's the same, but like we get to go on dates now. We get to, I take a shower and I just walk to my room naked. Like, don't put that on the podcast, but we're falling back in love, man.
Yeah.
On a way that I was content with how we were before, and now I'm just like it's really exciting to have that time together now. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you feel like on the jiu-jitsu side that you accomplished your childhood dream to become a ninja?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's been, as soon as I put the white belt on, I knew I was going to be a black belt. There was never a question. I never ever was going to quit. And so I wasn't surprised in that way, but when when Chris put that black belt on me, I was like, this was part of my childhood dream, was to become a ninja,
Yeah.
and it's a funny thing because it doesn't really change anything. Like I still get beat up every day. But it's like, yeah, like I've earned this. I appreciate this, and I'm going to help other people get this same thing, and this accomplishment.
Yeah. As a black belt, do you ever feel the pressure when you're rolling with lower belts? Like, I feel like I see a lot of black belts that get their black belt and then they check out and they're like, that's it. I reached the goal. I'm done.
Yeah.
And then it's definitely, maybe it's an age thing because a lot of guys are starting like in their 30s, 40s, even Brad's age in his 50s. But it also could just be like, I'm a black belt. I could never let a lower belt tap me.
Yeah.
So, like, do you feel that pressure of like, oh no, now I have this thing to uphold as a black belt, or what's your mentality around that?
No, it's super funny actually. And I don't know why this happened to me, but it did. Like, I felt that way more at purple and brown belt, to be honest with you. It was almost like a defend the belt mentality.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of those characteristics come out when you're insecure,
Yeah.
like in life and in martial arts. So, I mean, at every belt level, and that's part of what I was talking about. Like, I'm hard on myself. I never thought I deserved. When I got my purple belt, I was like, I don't deserve this. When I got my brown belt, I don't deserve this. Black belt was the first belt that I got where I was like, heck yeah, I earned this.
Yeah.
Um, and so no, I don't. But I've heard other black belts talk about this. I've heard other black belts say the belt is heavy, you know, like all this stuff. I don't feel that way at all. I think partially in shifting into an instructor and gym owner role, um, I don't look at you guys like competition or something. Like you guys are our students, but you're also part of our family, and it's like if I get tapped out by you, which happens, right? I'm happy for you. Like I remember when I was a purple belt, the first time I tapped out a black belt, I freaking called my wife. I was, I was like, dude, I caught, and it was Vic in Santa Barbara. This guy's
Yeah.
incredible black belt and super good, competitive. And I caught him. No, and then I had caught a brown belt when I was a blue belt. And this guy Joel, he tapped me 15 times after that, but I got him once, right?
Yeah.
And I was over the moon, and I remember that feeling. And so for these, especially for you guys who are our students and stuff, like I feel that for you guys now. But the shift for me happened when I was training under Brian Riskus. So Brian Riskus is a black belt, but he was also a friend of mine. I was a Muay Thai fighter for many years, and I got to train with Brian back in the day, and I always loved this guy. Super intelligent, just great guy. But he smaller guy. He's like 145, 150 maybe. So I'm bigger, and I remember rolling with him when I was a purple belt, and I was like, today's the day. Like I'm getting this guy, right? And I got him. And Brian was so happy for me. And he was like, dude, that was sick, bro. And then he slapped me, and I was like, oh, we're resetting? And he's like, yeah, we're going again. I tapped him again, and he was like, dude, you're on fire today.
Yeah.
Slap bump, you know? He didn't change his pace. He didn't come at me, which he could have, you know? Everything was the same. And then afterwards, he's like, dude, you're getting really good, man. I'm really proud of you. And then he went and rolled with someone else.
Yeah.
And nothing in his demeanor changed. And that was a big moment in my jiu-jitsu career. I was like, oh, yeah, it can be like this.
Yeah.
That was sick. Like I was on fire that day, you know? I was doing well. Everything was connecting. I caught him. It was good. And I was just like, wow, this is an awakening for me. Like, I want to be that black belt, you know? I'm not going to give it up. I'm still going to be competitive, but at the same time, it's like, why would you be, you don't have to be like that, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm not insecure about my black belt like I was at my other belts. And I'm totally content with just trying to get better and all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely like a culture of, I almost think it's a little outdated, like the gi culture, where it's like all the positions that you have to drill and roll 100%
Yeah.
this way, and you have to grind your ribs into people in side control, and you have to dig your elbow into their face, and all the OG black belts that will not be named.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
roll like that still, where you roll with them and you're like,
This hurts. Yeah.
happy for this right now. But I think that they just came from that time where like there was no, I don't know, second gear. It was always you're stuck in first, and
Yeah.
you do it that way. But I also think with that comes the other side of the coin, which is this ego of like, if you come after me, I might come back after you. And
Yeah.
if your ego gets broken
Yeah.
because a lower belt taps you, like, what does that mean? Are you
Yeah.
done? Are
Yeah, are
you
you
come after
done?
me
You
like
could-
crazy?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's something worth asking, because I think a lot of people don't like. I think people are mixed on this. I think, like you said, I think purple belt anytime somebody just gets their belt, I always like keep my distance. I'm like, you are
Yeah.
out for blood. You're trying to
Yeah.
prove you deserve this thing.
That's a dangerous animal. Yeah.
So the ego gets there, but I also think like it does hold people back from progressing,
Absolutely.
right? Because they
Yeah.
don't want to take roles with other people.
Yep.
Like I rolled with a newer wrestler kid, 260 pounds plus yesterday, and every time he was trying to hit a takedown, I was like, I could break a leg trying to
Yeah.
stop a takedown
Yeah.
from this guy,
Yeah.
you know, but I wanted to challenge myself, like you said. So it's
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, if he takes you down or if he beats you in a match, I still go home. I
Yeah.
still come back the next day. Like
Yeah.
it's not,
Yeah. You're getting better.
yeah.
And that's the key too, is like, there's, and people talk about this in jiu-jitsu when you have these like plateau moments where you're like stuck, you know,
Yeah.
you feel like you've reached, like, maybe you're trying to work on a specific guard and then you feel like you get to like a mastery level, you know, and you've spent the last year just focusing only on this guard, and then you reach where you want to be with it, and then you're like, well, now I'm kind of stuck, right? I think people can do that with their mentality too, where they want to win every round, and then when they start losing against better people, they get plateau stuck. They're like, but so then they have a choice to make. If you deny those roles, then you're going to plateau, right? You're never going to get above those guys who are at their level, right? Um, so you have to keep kind of seeking that. And that's how people get good at jujitsu when they start, is because everyone's better than them. You don't have the choice at that time to say like, no, I'm not going to roll. You're like, everyone you look at is better than you, you know? And so once you get to like purple or brown, it's like now there's only 3 guys in the room who are better than you. And you choose to roll with everyone but those 3 guys, you know, because you have a choice now, you know?
Yeah.
And then you don't want to lose to those guys like we were talking about before. So then you get hurt or that kind of thing, you know? So, yeah, it's an interesting concept in jiu-jitsu. I think what I'm seeing in the culture, especially here in our gym, is guys are willing to take those hard roles and get better, and we have a very supportive, loving culture, I think, at Paragon, and I'm very proud of that. You know, that has a lot to do with the culture that Chris and Mallory have built, and then hopefully I'm upholding that. I think I am, but um, it's a really, it's a decision, you know, though. But like, I think it's so hard to get to purple and brown, that people want to hold on to it too much, and they don't want to keep that white belt mentality that we talked about in the beginning, you know. And like freaking AJ was doing a crazy footlock, you know, that I'd never seen before. And like as a black belt, it's like I gotta swallow my pride and be like, hey, white belt at that time, get over here and teach me. Like you gotta show me how to do that, because that's working on everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like you can't lose that mentality. And for me, it's like the black belt's the first belt that I've really felt like, and I've heard people say this too. It's like, no, that's the beginning of your jujitsu. But you see so many people like reach that pinnacle and then just walk away.
Yeah.
And nah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, it's interesting too that like the culture of the gym, like Brad talked about this a little bit, where the people are the reason that you're coming in.
Yeah.
So I think especially when you're first starting, the culture is really important,
Yeah.
because if you're coming in and you get your ass kicked every single day, you're the nail instead of the hammer.
Yeah.
Everybody's the hammer, you're the nail.
Yeah.
And you keep coming back and you're just focused on growing in this one thing. Like the thing that will bring you back is you start to make friends, you start to learn from other people.
Yeah.
Other people become your mentors until you can become one yourself to
Yeah.
other people and become a blue belt and a purple belt. And then you're kind of like building that trust with people, and not everybody is a good training partner. So
Yeah.
you do learn who to stay away from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Who you
Yeah.
mesh with. So, and I definitely have that, but I think the culture, like gym culture, is something that people don't, I guess, because it's not like a tangible thing. Like you
Yeah.
don't take it very seriously sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important because I've rolled through some gyms that I definitely would not pay to go to those
Yeah.
gyms because the
Absolutely.
culture was off.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there's like obviously like a vibe,
Yeah.
you know, but there's also just respect,
Yeah.
right? How many women are training in your gym?
Yeah.
If there's none, that could be a problem. How many
Yeah.
people over 50? If
Yeah.
there's none, that could be a problem. How many kids? Like,
Yeah.
so and then I think the Brazilian jiu-jitsu way was very like they kept things. Each gym had their moves,
Yeah.
their like specialties, and it was
Yeah.
very like closed doors. People would not. I mean, there was like people coming in to challenge gym leaders
Yeah.
at that time, right?
Jim Storm.
Yeah.
The old days.
They
Yeah.
didn't want you to come in and like film their techniques and share them.
Yeah.
When Eddie Bravo was out there trying all these new things, and they were like, "You don't come into my gym with
Yeah.
that shit," you know.
Yeah.
So I think it's nice to see that culture shift
Yeah. Absolutely.
into this like sharing, more open,
Yeah.
less ego, hopefully
Absolutely.
driven thing.
Yeah. And I was raised, so I started jujitsu in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
So, and Santa Barbara was a very, I would say, very high level gym. I mean, the upper echelon of guys who were training at that time in Santa Barbara were world class, right? And so you're learning from these guys, but a lot of guys would come to our gym at that time because of that. To kind of, it's not like a old school Gracie like gym storm, but they would come in and we would have to defend the gym, you know. And I remember I was a good white belt. I had an incredible instructor, John Sandoval, um, and John owns Galita. They just shifted over to 101 jiu-jitsu and kickboxing, but they were a Paragon at one time, and just an incredible mentor and teacher. But he's very old school, and guys would come in and he would be like, pair them up with me, you know, because I was smaller than them, but better. And so I was raised in that environment where it was like, defend the gym at all costs. And I do think there's, you know, there's a very competitive aspect to jiu-jitsu too. There's a comp scene and all that kind of stuff. But the way that martial arts has developed and grown over time, like it's, you know, it used to be when I started, it was like, I use the term like convicts and cops, right? It was like, if you were like a regular guy with a job, they'd be like, what are you doing here, bro? You know? And then they, you know, it kind of goes from there. But now it's like, you got like doctors, lawyers, dentists, you know, janitors, pizza guys, like it's everyone. And so it's cool to see the culture evolve from that kind of like defend the house into like everyone's welcome. I think those of us who have stuck with it, and guys like you who have been training, you know, a long time, like it's like we know the value of what is here through this struggle. And I think everyone, and we talked about this with my son too, it's like self-imposed struggle. And so anyone who's seeking that to be a better person, whether they're seeking it for that or self-defense or just they want to be a ninja like I did, like eventually they're going to come to that crossroad where it makes them a better person, I think.
Yeah.
And then what you do with that knowledge after that is up to you. You know, there are black belts out there who are complete assholes. You know, we all know that. And use it in just a domineering kind of horrible way. But I think the majority of people will reach that kind of crossroad where it's like, oh, this is something that everyone can benefit from. You know, like you said with Brad, like you come for whatever reason, but you stay for the people, you know, the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, you know. And I think everyone should have access to that. So that's something we take very seriously at our gym. And I think you can feel that. Like you said, it's a vibe. Like we want everyone to be able to get something out of this. So doesn't mean we don't roll hard. Our gym's tough, you know, we're good. But you know, we're gonna shake your hand after it and help you out with technique if you want that, you know.
Yeah.
Make you better. So It's cool. But yeah, Santa Barbara back in the day was tough. They wouldn't even learn your name until you were a blue belt. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and we had to compete. It was like strongly encouraged, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, it's you get good really fast in that environment, but a lot of people leave. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people. There's a group I started with was probably 20 people at that time in my little class, and I think I'm the only black belt that's come out of that. There's another guy, Alan, who's incredible, and another guy, Casey, who came in a little bit after us. They're both brown belts. They're going to be black belts for sure. But almost everyone else has fallen off, or got hurt, or
Yeah.
you know. Um, and I think we have a really good attrition rate at our gym, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that I was just talking to a guy a couple days ago about this, where there is an amount of time if you take jujitsu off and you stop associating yourself as somebody who does jujitsu,
Yeah,
you will not come back.
yeah,
Like, I mean, maybe you will 10 years later and you're
yeah,
starting over at 50 or 60 or
yeah,
whatever. But
yeah. That's rare though.
yeah,
Yeah, there are guys who have done it, you know,
yeah,
but it's like it's kind of like it's such a, you know, they say iron sharpens iron. Like you sharpen yourself, and then as soon as you walk away, you start getting dull again.
yeah,
So then you got to go through that resharpen phase, and that's tough for people.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a little different than like things you could pick up. Like you stop playing the piano for 10 years and you're like, I can still kind of play.
yeah,
Or whatever it is. Like some of those things you can kind of get away with it. But with jujitsu, sometimes I feel like a couple weeks, man, and I come back and
yeah,
everybody is so much better now.
yeah. I feel like 3 days, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, I take 3 days off, and I'm like, good God,
Yeah.
dude.
So
But
there's that motivating factor,
yeah,
to keep coming back or try to push your days. And that guys are like, how many days are you coming in?
yeah.
You're like 5, and then like,
How much you train, bro?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactli Which is good, man. The
Yeah.
competitiveness is good, and especially if they're your friends and it can be like a friendly
Yeah. Yeah.
competition.
Yeah.
But
I think as, I mean, I could say this for anyone, but for myself, like, especially with men, I think that, is we lose that connection, you know, if you play organized sports as a child and stuff, you have this camaraderie with your team and stuff. And then I definitely had that in the military as well. But there was a gap in my life where I didn't have anything, you know, and and I was doing stuff on my own, like lifting and running and you know that kind of thing. But like you lose that camaraderie, that connection to other um, people who are seeking that, like warriors, you know,
yeah,
modern day warriors, and and I think that's so important. Not only the camaraderie, but being around other people who are choosing to this life of struggle, you know, through grappling. And so it's just a beautiful thing. Um, and so I hope, and we're seeing it, like culture is shifting into that direction where like jujitsu is just exploding, you know. But
yeah,
I hope everyone can experience that, you know. It's and some people get it through like CrossFit or Hydrox or you know whatever's going on, but it's that shared struggle, you know, that camaraderie. It's a beautiful thing, man.
yeah,
It's really cool. So
yeah. That was when I did wrestling in high school. That was one thing that I was like, none of the other sports teams did this, man.
yeah,
There's no comparison to waking up every day at 4 a.m. to go do
yeah,
like preschool practice for an hour and then going to school and then like wearing a sweatsuit on your lunch and not eating everything and watching
yeah,
your friends eat and then training
yeah,
again after school, going to tournaments on the weekends, dual
yep,
meets, and you're like, it's just hell.
yeah. And you're
But it's
not
good. Like,
eating, but then you know your 120 pounders also not. So you guys sit together and
yeah,
talk about how much pizza you want to eat when you get home.
yeah,
It's a beautiful thing, man.
yeah. And it sounds kind of silly, like looking back on it, but it does. I feel because I wasn't in the military, but I feel like it would kind of inspire the same camaraderie type
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
Um, what's a couple of things that you like? What haven't we talked about today that you feel like either young men or just people in general who are walking the path would benefit from knowing? Like, do you have any habits or words of wisdom that you kind of live your life by that you feel like other people could benefit from
Yeah.
specifically?
Yeah. I think beyond what we've talked about, like the most important thing, I think with jujitsu, I think with any endeavor that feels what we're talking about, like a lot of our meaning gets bundled into what we're talking about right now, like that finding something where you have camaraderie and all that stuff. At the end of the day, and I think why people quit and why people bounce around and stuff like that is, and I talked about this when I was younger too, is eventually you're gonna reach the peak, right? Eventually you're gonna get a black belt. And you put so much emphasis on trying to get to the pinnacle of whatever you're doing, you will find that hole in your heart that you were trying to fill is still empty.
Yeah.
And so there has to be something beyond that. And I feel that is God, honestly. Um, and for me, it was when I surrendered my life to Jesus Christ. And it filled that hole. Everything else just was a caveat, honestly. And so I've done that so much in my life. Like my wife I'm the all in guy on so many things. Cause I will go, when I started surfing, I surfed twice a day, every day for, 5, 6 years. I got really good at surfing. And then I realized that, obviously I'm not Kelly Slater. I'm never going to be a pro. And it's like, then that hole that I was trying to fill, or that validation I was trying to fill, was still empty. Same thing with high school sports. Same thing with jujitsu. Once I surrendered my life to the Lord, it filled that hole. And then all this other stuff is just incredible, like, so like you said, my mentality when I got my black belt, I think is different than other guys. I wasn't trying to fill the hole with my black belt. It was already filled. I couldn't fill it, and so uh, I would say on the higher level to young people, um, that's what'll fill that hole. And I want that for everyone, just like I want everyone to come and grapple with us,
Yeah.
So, and I'm not one of those guys who's going to say, find the thing for you that fills that hole. I think the only thing that can fill that hole is Jesus Christ. I'm a strong Christian man. And I'll stand on that every day of my life. So, is what it is.
Yeah.
And then I think I think on a lighter note, have fun, man. Life's a gift. I really think it is. You know, and I'm saying that from someone who's struggled with mental illness. I'm saying that from someone who's struggled with physical stuff, Um, it's a gift, and everyone's got a different thing that they're dealing with in life, and we got to find the joy. We do. We have to treat it like a gift and have fun, um, you know, and be positive. I don't know. I'm a sappy, positive guy, dude.
That's great, man.
I get my feelings sometimes, but in general, it's like, dude, have some fun, man.
Yeah.
And healthy fun, obviously. But if you fill that gap already, you're gonna have a lot more healthy fun.
For
So,
sure.
let's see what else. Oh, one thing we didn't talk about is I have like clinical OCD, and especially through my time in the military, I learned how to mask that.
Yeah.
But it's something I struggle with and deal with all the time. I think when a lot of people talk about OCD, they're like, "Oh yeah, I count things." It's not that. Clinical OCD is a much different beast. And as a kid, I didn't know what it was. There wasn't a lot of literature or help or stuff on it, at that time. And so like, as a kid, I would spend, the longest I probably spent in the bathroom trying to figure out how to turn the light off right when I look in the right corner of my eye, which matches up with the tile in the bathroom, like just crazy stuff, like that. It goes like 3 hours, and that is like debilitating. Like it just like panic attacks, stuff like that have gone along with it. Um, and I learned to control it over time, I think. And one of the things that's really helped me through that is a big part of that is intrusive thoughts. And like I won't even say out loud sometimes what I get stuck on. It's so ridiculous. Like if you say it out loud, it sounds so silly. But um, learning to kind of surrender that, to the Lord too, and just let those thoughts flow through you, um, has been a real gift that I've attained over time. But I had a lot of physical tics when I was a kid too. And people don't know how to deal with that, very similar to someone who has Tourette's or something like that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more literature and help on that. My son also has clinical OCD. It's one of those things like if you didn't ask, we wouldn't tell, or like we wouldn't even like you wouldn't maybe even notice. But everyone's struggling with something, man.
Yeah.
Whether it's OCD or ADHD or whatever it is, or or they just beat themselves up, inside. But you can learn to channel those things and turn them positive. And it's okay to ask for help, So luckily my son had help, I was able to kind of see those characteristics and we were able to plug him into therapy and stuff like that. But it's something he struggles with every day, as do I.
Yeah.
So if anyone's struggling with anything like that, like especially locally, like it's rare for someone to come out and talk about OCD, I feel like. I'm always willing to talk to people about it, and I'm not a huge fan of medication. But there's a lot of things you can do to kind of ease your mind and get through that stuff. So
Yeah.
um,
That's great, man. Thanks for
yeah.
sharing that.
yeah.
I feel like people could really benefit from things that people don't typically talk about. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think everyone's, dude, once you like get in, I mean, it's rare to sit down and talk like this, but once you get into it, everyone's dealing with something, man.
yeah.
And it's like we can all talk about these things and help each other. Like that's huge. Just like we were talking about with the community of grappling. Like, don't sit on these things on your own, man. Like, talk to someone who's dealt with it. Like, we have so many more resources now than when I was, than when I was a kid in the '90s. Like, I didn't even know what it was, man. It was just this beast that was raging in my head and then manifesting in my physical tics, and I didn't even know what was going on, So, yeah, get out there and talk to someone, or
Yeah.
well,
Definitely. Well, I think we're coming to the end here, but I'm going to ask you the question of the day,
Yeah.
which is to nominate the next mentor that you want to see show up on this podcast. What do you have in mind?
We kind of talked about this briefly, but Aaron Steed is a good one.
Yeah.
That guy is an incredible guy. He's a good one. Obviously, very successful business owner and just incredible guy, and beautiful family, doing a great job, killing it. One of my favorite people in the whole world. That there's this parable in the Bible about there's two slaves and the owner gives them penance or whatever, and one of them buries it, and then the master comes back and he's like, here's your 10 penance or whatever, and he's like, sweet, that's cool and everything, but you just buried it, right? And then the other guy turned that 10 penance into 100 or whatever. I'm butchering the parable, but you get the point. There's a guy I know who's turned his 10 penance into 100 penance, and he's the kindest, sweetest guy I've ever met. It's Zoli. Zoli is an incredible human being, great friend, one of my best friends. And his family is immigrants, they did well with elderly care buildings, but Zoli really stepped in and took the penance and has exponentially increased that. And he's one of the smartest, just kindest people I've ever met. And I'm honored to have him as a friend. So I think he would be a great interview for you.
Awesome.
But yeah.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, I can't say
Appreciate
enough
that.
good things about that guy.
Thanks,
That
dude.
big old ogre.
Yeah, exactly.
Love that guy.
Well, thanks, Jeremy. Man, I really appreciate you coming in here and making the time and going through. It's a hot day today. We're both sweating pretty bad, so going through it with me. And yeah, buddy, I really appreciate you.
Thanks, my brother. You too, man. It's an honor, bud.
Thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Making Mentors podcast. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Please drop a like, comment, or follow on your favorite platform. And thank you so much for following my journey and supporting me and all those who are willing to share their stories on this channel. Until next time, cheers.